Welcome to Native Ear, the channel that's all about helping you understand, remember, and, most importantly, use English naturally in your everyday life. I'm your host. And today we are diving into a situation I think everyone knows all too well, the stress of getting dressed and, of course, running late. Our mission for this deep dive is, I think, really clear and very practical. By the end of our time together, you'll have the words and the confidence to talk about clothing, ask for style advice, and use some of those, common phrases you hear between couples. It's all about making you sound more informed and, well, more fluent. So let's start with a question to get us thinking. Do you ever find it hard to decide what to wear before a big event? If that sounds familiar, you're definitely in the right place. Today's conversation is going to give you the exact tools you need to talk about that problem and, ask for help. And before we jump in, please, if you haven't already, take a moment to like, subscribe, and share Native Ear with your family and friends. That way, they won't miss out on useful lessons like this one. Okay, I'm really happy to say that joining me today to unpack all of this is our expert guide and English instructor, Jordan. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here. I'm really looking forward to walking you through this. We'll keep it warm, clear, and professional. Our goal is to make sure every single detail we talk about today is easy for you to follow and something you can use right away.
That sounds perfect. So let's set the stage. The source of material we're looking at today is a situation that is just so relatable. We have a man and a woman, a couple, getting ready to go to a dinner party. But there's a problem. A couple of problems, actually. First, he's taking way too long to get ready.
Right. The time pressure.
Exactly. And second, when he finally does pick an outfit, well, it's completely wrong for where they're going.
And that's where the good stuff is. Our mission here is to take this exchange, which is just full of natural, colloquial American English, and really break it down. We'll unpack the key phrases, all the clothing vocabulary, and maybe the most important thing, the cultural context.
Yeah.
What makes something the right thing to wear to one event but not another?
That kind of understanding, that nuance, is just so essential for really communicating well in English, isn't it?
It's absolutely key.
Okay, so to give you the full picture, I'm going to read the entire English dialogue now. I'll go slowly and clearly so you can really focus on the words, but also, the feeling of the conversation. So picture this. A couple in their bedroom, and they really, really need to leave the house. The wife starts. She says, "Honey, come on, we are going to be late. Honestly, you take longer getting ready than I do. I was drying my hair and ironing my shirt. Can you come here for a second? I need your help." And the husband replies, "What is it? Why are all these clothes on the bed? I do not know what to wear. Okay, give me your opinion. Do you like the way this looks? The striped short-sleeve shirt with this checkered sweater and my lucky sandals. I like the cut and hemline of these shorts, so I think I will wear these as well." To which the guy says, "Are you joking? What am I going to do with you? We're going to a dinner party, not to the beach. Wear the shirt with the silk tie I bought you and those corduroy pants. It is chilly outside, so you can wear this coat." And finally, the husband says, "Thanks, honey. You have such great fashion sense. Now what am I going to do with my hair?"
Wow. Even in that short exchange, it's just so rich, isn't it? You can feel the emotion change from her feeling anxious about the time to just complete disbelief at what he's chosen to wear.
It's a perfect example. It shows that communication is not just about the words you use.
No, not at all. It's about your tone, the situation, the context, everything.
That's a perfect place to start. Let's jump into our first section where we're going to focus on some of those conversational phrases, the ones that really build fluency, especially when you're talking about time and a little bit of relationship frustration. The very first line from the wife really sets the tone. She says, "You take longer getting ready than I do."
This is such a useful phrase and so common. The simple meaning is just that one person needs more time to prepare than the other. To shower, get dressed, do their hair.
In the dialogue, she's clearly annoyed. His slowness is making them late.
Exactly. And she points out her own efficiency, doesn't she? She says, "I was drying my hair and ironing my shirt." She's basically saying, "I've done my part, I'm ready, but you're still not." She's highlighting that she was productive while he was lagging behind.
Our sources had a really interesting anecdote here. They made a distinction between taking a long time, because you're actually putting in a lot of effort, and taking a long time because, you're just distracted.
And that distinction is so important in real life. When someone complains you're taking too long, it's often not about the dressing part, it's the distraction. The source used a fantastic American English term for this, a word I just love, lollygagging.
Lollygagging. It's such a great word. How would you really define that for our listeners? Is it a common term?
Oh, it's fairly common in North America, and people will definitely understand you. Lollygagging means you're being slow, you're wasting time, or sort of dilly-dallying instead of doing what you're supposed to be doing.
So it has a playful, but also slightly scolding kind of feel to it?
Exactly. The source gave some perfect examples, like checking your email over and over, scrolling through social media, or playing a game on your phone when you should be getting your shoes on.
So if someone says, stop lollygagging, we need to go, they're really telling you to stop messing around and get serious.
That's it exactly. They want you to focus.
And that's the complete opposite of the efficient person, isn't it? The person who might only start getting ready 30 minutes before they have to leave, but they're ready right on time because they're just focused.
Precisely. And in our dialogue, the husband is clearly the lollygagger. He's wasted so much time that now he's in a panic and making terrible choices, like trying to wear shorts and sandals.
That inefficiency really sets up the whole conflict of the scene.
It really does. It's the root of her frustration.
Okay, let's move to the next phrase. The wife asks, can you come here for a second? I'm saying the full word second here for clarity, though I know it often gets shortened.
That's a great point. Saying the full phrase, for a second, is the clearest way to say you just need a brief moment of someone's time. But you're right, in fast, casual speech, you'll often hear native speakers say, for a sec. It's just a short form. And while we're focusing on clear pronunciation, it's really useful to recognize for a sec when you hear it.
So whether you say for a second or for a sec, the meaning is the same. I need you for a moment. Or, can you come here quickly?
That's it. And notice that even though she's stressed, the phrase, can you come here for a second, is still a request. It's not a command. It's a polite way to ask for immediate help.
And it implies the help she needs won't take long.
Right. She's already worried about the time. She doesn't want to start a long discussion. She just needs a quick opinion.
Which brings us to the phrase that just perfectly captures her frustration when she sees his outfit. She says, what am I going to do with you?
This is a classic, a cornerstone of communication in relationships. It sounds like a question, but it's not really a question. It's what we call a rhetorical statement.
So she's not actually asking for advice on what to do with her husband.
No, not at all. The meaning is purely emotional. It's an expression of disbelief, of exasperation. She's frustrated because he's, being difficult or showing a serious lack of judgment.
So when she says that, what she really means is something like, I can't believe you would think this is okay to wear, or maybe you're making this so much harder than it needs to be.
Precisely. It's a mix of frustration and maybe a little bit of, affectionate annoyance. It says, this is exasperating, and I have to help you with things you should know how to do yourself.
That's a great way to put it. So you can use this phrase whenever someone is just, being a bit hopeless or making a recurring mistake.
You can. Like if your friend always forgets their keys, you might shake your head and say, what am I going to do with you? It's a really powerful little phrase for showing that kind of complex, layered emotion in English.
All right, that brings us to our next section. We're going to shift from the timing and frustration to the specific language of clothing. This is where the conversation really gets interesting. Let's start with a basic word the wife used when describing what she was doing. She said she was ironing her shirt. So the word iron.
This is a perfect word to start with because it works as both a noun and a verb, which can sometimes be confusing.
Okay, so as a name.
As a noun, the iron is the appliance itself, the machine, the metal thing you plug in that gets hot.
And as a verb.
As a verb, to iron is the action. It's what you do with an iron. I need to iron my shirt.
And the purpose of ironing, especially for an event like a dinner party, what's the goal?
The goal is to get the wrinkles or creases out of the fabric. When you iron your clothes, you want to look nice and put together. That phrase means you look tidy, organized, and like you've made an effort.
And not making that effort, like showing up with a wrinkled shirt, can send a bad signal.
It can. It can suggest you don't care much about the event or that you're a bit sloppy.
Now, you just said wrinkles or creases. Is there a difference? Because I know sometimes people intentionally iron a crease into their pants.
That is an excellent, excellent point. Yes, there's a big difference. A wrinkle is an unwanted line or fold in the fabric. You use an iron to remove wrinkles. A crease, on the other hand, is a sharp, deliberate fold. You see it down the front of formal trousers. You use an iron to add a crease to make the garment look sharper and more formal.
So you iron out wrinkles, but you might iron in a crease.
Exactly right. That's a great little distinction to know.
Okay, now for the husband's disastrous choices. Let's talk about the patterns he picked. He chose a striped short-sleeve shirt.
Okay, so striped. This means the fabric has lines on it. They can be parallel lines that go up and down, that's vertical, or they can go from left to right, that's horizontal.
The source material gave a really good visual cue for this. The American flag.
Yes, the stars and stripes. It's a perfect reference. The striped part of the flag is a clear example of horizontal stripes.
And there's a bit of fashion lore about stripes, isn't there? About how they make you look.
There is. It's a very common belief, though I'm not sure how scientific it is, that vertical stripes, the ones that go up and down, make you look taller and thinner.
And horizontal stripes.
And horizontal stripes are often said to make you look a bit wider. It's just one of those common little bits of fashion advice you'll hear people share.
Okay, so he's got the striped shirt, but then he makes it worse by putting a checkered sweater over it.
And this is where it all goes wrong visually. A checkered pattern is made up of little squares. Usually one square is one color, and the one next to it is a different color, and they alternate.
Like a chessboard.
A checkerboard or a chessboard is the perfect mental image for it.
So why is combining stripes and checks considered such a bad idea in fashion? He has lines on his shirt and squares on his sweater.
It's just too much for the eye to process. The two patterns are competing. We have a few ways to describe this. We'd say the combination is too busy, or that the patterns are clashing. It just looks visually chaotic.
So good fashion sense would be to pick one of those patterns.
Right. You pick one strong pattern, like the checkered sweater, and you pair it with something simple, a solid colored shirt. That creates a nice, balanced look.
I see. So the key vocabulary here is striped for lines and checkered for squares. And, there are similar words like plaid. How is that different?
That's a good question. Plaid is also a pattern with squares, but it's usually more complex. It has overlapping stripes of different colors and widths, creating a much more intricate pattern. We often associate it with Scotland.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's move on to the actual structure of his shirt. He chose a short sleeve shirt.
Right. So the sleeves are the parts of the shirt that cover your arms. A short sleeve shirt is one where the fabric only covers the shoulder and the upper part of your arm, ending around the bicep.
Which is fine for warm weather, but maybe not a chilly evening.
Exactly. The opposite would be a long sleeve shirt, where the sleeves go all the way down to your wrist. That's for colder weather or, more formal occasions.
Which then brings us to the final part of his terrible outfit. The footwear. His lucky sandals.
Ah, yes, the lucky sandals. You can tell he's attached to them.
What's the simple definition of sandals we should give our listeners?
The simplest way to think of them is as open shoes or open-toe shoes. Your feet are not fully covered. They're held on by straps. And they are, the definition, casual.
Very casual. And calling them his lucky sandals suggests he wears them for comfort, not for style.
Exactly. But comfort can't be the only factor. The context of the event is so important. Open-toed shoes are almost never okay for a dinner party at someone's house.
The source even had a funny term for people who insist on wearing them: claustrophobic feet.
Yes, that's a perfect example of using humor in English to explain a personal quirk. It's obviously an exaggeration. And we should also quickly distinguish sandals from flip-flops.
Oh.
Flip-flops are even more casual. They're named for the sound they make when you walk. Flip-flop, flip-flop. They're strictly for the beach, the pool, or maybe a very quick trip to the corner store. If sandals are bad for a dinner party, flip-flops are unthinkable.
Got it. Unthinkable. Okay, this is a great place to move into Section 3. We're going to look at some more detailed clothing terms, especially the ones the husband used to try and sound like he knew what he was talking about.
Right, when he was trying to defend his choice of shorts.
Exactly. He says he likes the cut and the hemline of the shorts. Now, these feel like more advanced, technical terms.
They are a bit more specific, yes. And you often hear them when people are talking about women's clothing, like dresses or skirts. But they absolutely apply to all tailored clothes, including men's trousers and shorts.
Let's start with cut. What does that actually mean?
The cut of a piece of clothing refers to its overall shape and design. It's about how the fabric has been, cut and sewn together to fit the body. It really defines the silhouette of the garment.
So it's more than just the general style. It's very specific.
It's very specific. For pants, for example, the cut would include things like the rise, that's how high it sits on your waist, and the drape, which is how the fabric falls down your leg.
Can you give us a few examples of different cuts for men's pants that we might hear people talk about?
Sure. A very common one today is a slim cut or slim fit. That means it's tailored to be close to the leg, but not super tight. It looks modern.
Okay.
Then you have a relaxed cut. That just means there's more room in the leg. It's more comfortable, more casual. And at the most formal end, you have a tailored cut, which is very precise, often measured to fit one person perfectly. It looks very sharp.
So when the husband says he likes the cut of his shorts, he's trying to sound knowledgeable, but he's missing the bigger picture.
He's missing the entire picture. The cut can be perfect, but shorts are still shorts, and they're wrong for a dinner party.
All right, what about the other word he used? Hemline.
The hemline is much simpler. It's just the bottom edge of the garment where the fabric ends and is sewn up. It tells you the length of the piece of clothing.
Right, and our source material had that great example of a mother saying, the hemline on that skirt is much too high.
Exactly. That's the most common way you'll hear it, to talk about whether something is too long or too short. A good hemline falls at the right place for the style and the occasion.
And for formal pants, the hemline can have special features, right? Like a cuff.
It can. You can have a cuff, which is a little folded up band of fabric at the bottom, or the pants could be tapered, which means they get narrower towards the ankle. These are all details related to the hemline that affect how formal the pants look.
So the husband uses these specific words, cut and hemline, but fails the most basic test of fashion, context.
Completely, which is why his wife has to step in with some much more appropriate suggestions.
Let's look at what she suggests. First, a silk tie.
Okay, so a tie, or necktie, is that essential piece of formal wear for men. And silk is the material. Silk is a natural fiber known for being incredibly soft and smooth. It has a slight shine.
And it suggests quality, maybe? Expense?
It definitely suggests quality. It feels luxurious, which is why it's a classic choice for formal accessories and, a very common gift.
What else should our listeners know about silk as a material?
They should know that it's quite delicate. It can wrinkle easily, and you usually can't just throw it in the washing machine. It often needs to be dry cleaned. So the presence of silk immediately makes an outfit feel more special and formal.
Okay, so from delicate silk, she moves to a much heavier material. She suggests corduroy pants.
A total contrast. Corduroy is a very different kind of fabric. It's thick, it's heavy, and it's warm. This fits perfectly with her other comment, it's chilly outside.
And what makes corduroy look and feel unique?
It's all about the texture. Corduroy has these parallel raised lines running down the fabric. We call them ribs or ridges. If you run your hand over it, you can feel them.
And do those ridges change how formal the pants are?
They do. It's a great question. We actually have a technical term for this. The ridges are called the walla, and we measure corduroy by its wall count, which is how many ridges there are per inch.
Wow, okay.
So a corduroy with a low wale count, meaning very thick, wide ridges, is very casual. Think of work jackets. But a corduroy with a high wale count, very thin, fine ridges that almost look like velvet, is much softer and considered more formal. She was probably suggesting a finer wale corduroy.
That's a fantastic detail. And finally, she completes the outfit with a coat, because it's chilly.
And there you have it, the full appropriate outfit. A dress shirt, a silk tie, corduroy pants, and a coat. It's a completely different world from his original idea.
Her final comment, "We're going to a dinner party, not to the beach," just sums it all up.
It's the key. It's not just about what looks good. It's about what is socially appropriate. She's saving him from making a big social mistake.
A very big social mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, this moves us perfectly into section 4, which is all about the language of asking for opinions and talking about style. The husband, after he's been corrected, asks his wife, "Do you like the way this looks?"
This is such a simple, natural, and perfect phrase to ask for feedback. It's direct, everyone understands it, and it's what people really say.
And you usually say it while you're actually showing the clothes off, right?
Yes, exactly. You'd probably be standing in front of a mirror, or maybe you step out of a dressing room and do a little turn. You're modeling the outfit.
And the real meaning behind the words is?
The real meaning is, what is your opinion of what I'm wearing? Does this look good on me? You're asking for their aesthetic judgment. It's a very efficient way to ask for an opinion.
It's a phrase you hear all the time when people are shopping together or getting ready to go out.
All the time. And then, after his wife gives him the right advice, he compliments her. He says, "You have such great fashion sense." And that brings up a really important concept. Fashion sense.
So what exactly is fashion sense?
Fashion sense is a person's ability to understand fashion and what looks good. It's knowing how to put clothes and accessories together in a way that is appropriate and aesthetically pleasing.
So it's about more than just liking clothes. It's about having good judgment.
It's all about judgment. It's knowing which colors go together, which fabrics work for the season, and most importantly, what is right for the occasion. If we say someone has amazing fashion sense, we mean they always seem to know what to wear.
And the opposite.
The opposite would be to say someone has zero fashion sense or no fashion sense. That implies they make bad choices, like our friend the husband in the dialogue.
How is fashion sense different from, say, style? People use those words a lot.
That's a great question. They're related but different. Fashion sense is more about the ability to understand and apply current trends and rules correctly. Style is more personal. It's about your own unique way of expressing yourself through clothes. You could have great personal style without following fashion trends at all.
I see. So fashion sense is more about being appropriate, and style is more about being individual.
That's a perfect way to summarize it. And when the husband says his wife has great fashion sense, he's admitting his own judgment is flawed. He's saying, I need you to help me avoid looking ridiculous. And that's a very honest and very common dynamic.
Okay, we've gone through the dialogue in so much detail. Now, for our last big section, let's zoom out a bit and talk about the bigger global context of fashion, using all the simple vocabulary we've just learned. First, I think it's really important to understand the difference between what we see in magazines or on TV and what people actually wear. Let's talk about runway fashion versus daily life.
This is such a crucial point. The clothes you see at a big fashion show on a runway are not usually meant to be worn directly off the runway. They're more like art. They are, as our source says, exaggerations of trends.
So they're concepts, not really clothes for sale.
Exactly. A designer might be introducing a new idea. Maybe they're focused on a new color or a fabric like corduroy or a very dramatic cut with huge shoulders. The runway show is where they present that idea in its most extreme form.
And then what happens? How does that become something I could buy in a store?
Well, the big stores and brands, they see those ideas on the runway, and then they edit them. They take the core idea, say the military look or the color green, and they change it a little bit to make it more practical.
They make it wearable.
Yes, they make it appropriate for normal consumption, as the source puts it. They turn the extreme concept into a shirt or a pair of pants that a normal person can wear to work or to a dinner party.
That's a really helpful distinction.
Yeah.
It stops you from thinking that everyone in Paris or Milan is walking around in those crazy runway outfits.
Yeah, no, definitely not.
Okay, so let's move on to some international style comparisons. Because the way people use their fashion sense can be so different depending on where you are in the world.
It's incredibly different. Our source material mentions Italy, which is always a benchmark for fashion. Italian style is really defined by one thing above all else: quality.
Quality of the material and the construction.
Yes. The perfect silk, the finest leather, and a suit with an absolutely flawless cut. It's all about the details.
And there was a special Italian word the source mentioned that captures this spirit.
Yes, sprezzatura. It's a wonderful concept. It means making something that is very difficult, like being perfectly dressed, look completely effortless. It's a kind of studied carelessness.
Can you give an example?
Sure. It might be wearing a perfectly tailored suit, but leaving one button of your shirt cuff undone. Or having a beautiful silk tie, but having the knot just slightly loosened. It shows you're not trying too hard, even though you obviously are.
Okay, so that's a very refined, elegant style. Now let's contrast that with the styles our source mentioned from some Asian countries, like Japan and South Korea, which were described as more extreme.
Right. In the youth fashion hubs, like certain districts in Tokyo or Seoul, the style is often much more about experimentation and personal expression. There's less focus on following traditional rules.
This is where you see those really bold color combinations.
Exactly. You might see someone wearing bright red sneakers with green pants and a blue jacket, a combination that traditional fashion rules would say is a clash. But there, it's about creating a unique and confident statement. It's not about blending in, it's about standing out.
And they often use layering, right? Putting lots of different garments with different cuts on top of each other.
Yes, lots of layers, mixing textures and patterns in a way that feels very creative and intentional.
The source also mentioned a specific type of shoe that's popular in these fashion scenes. Platform shoes.
Right. Platform shoes have a very, very thick sole all the way across the bottom. It can be inches thick. The source described it as looking like you're standing on a brick or a book.
So it makes you much taller.
It makes you much taller, and it makes a very bold statement. It's about as far as you can get from the husband's casual, lucky sandals. It just shows how much the idea of appropriate footwear can change depending on where you are.
That's a perfect illustration. Okay, one final really important point. Fashion cost and alternatives. If you want to have great fashion sense, do you have to spend a lot of money?
That's the big question, isn't it? And the answer is no. Of course, high fashion from the big designer names is very, very expensive. A new silk tie or a corduroy suit from a famous brand costs a lot. But being fashionable and having good style doesn't have to be expensive.
So the key isn't having money, it's about being creative and knowing where to look.
Absolutely. True fashion sense is about being resourceful. And this is where the alternatives mentioned in the source material come in. The most important one is shopping at secondhand shops.
Right. What's the vocabulary around that our listeners should know?
The general term for the activity is thrifting. You go thrifting at a thrift store. That's where you find inexpensive used clothing.
And there are more specialized secondhand stores too, right?
Yes. There's consignment, where people bring in their higher quality, sometimes designer, used clothes to sell. The store takes a cut and the original owner gets a cut. And then there's vintage, which refers specifically to clothes from an older era, usually at least 20 years old, which can have really unique cuts and patterns.
So thrifting is a way to experiment with your style, to try out different patterns and fabrics without a big financial risk.
It's the smartest way to do it. It proves that developing your fashion sense, your understanding of color, fit, and context is so much more valuable than just buying expensive things.
And our source did mention one other, less recommended alternative, the fake market.
Yes, it acknowledged that some people try to get the designer look for less by buying counterfeit goods. But that's not really about developing personal style. The real focus should be on finding unique pieces and being creative, no matter your budget.
That gives us a really complete picture, from the tiny details of a conversation to the big global ideas about style. Okay, we have covered so much today. We have gone through every little piece of that stressful but very realistic conversation between a couple getting ready for a party. So let's do a very quick review of the key things you can start using today. We learned those great phrases for when you're frustrated, like, what am I going to do with you? And the word for why someone is taking so long, lollygagging. We also learned the perfect natural way to ask for an opinion. Do you like the way this looks? And how to give a great compliment. You have such great fashion sense. And we added some really critical clothing words to your vocabulary. The difference between striped and checkered, the verb to iron, and those more advanced terms like corduroy, cut, and hemline. And now for our final thought, a way for you to apply this right now. As you go about your day today, I want you to actively look at the clothes people are wearing. Try to observe at least 3 different people. And then, in your head or even out loud, practice describing what you see using our new words.
Do you see someone in a striped shirt? Do their pants have a slim cut? Do they look like they have great fashion sense? Or do they maybe look like they were lollygagging this morning and just grabbed whatever was on the floor? Try to use these new words to describe the world around you.
That's the best way to learn. Consistent application. If you start using this language to describe things you see every day, these words and phrases will move from just being notes to being a real part of your active vocabulary.
Thank you so much for walking us through all of this with such clear and helpful insights.
It was my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us for this deep dive on native ear. Keep practicing, keep observing, and we will see you next time. Goodbye, everyone.